Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Financially Fearless podcast. I have a super special, extra important guest today. Nicole is a previous client of mine. She's also a spiritual life and business coach. Nicole, do you want to talk any more about what you do? I'd love to tell everybody how amazing you are.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I'm a big lover of manifestation. My take on manifestation is really that it's a path of personal growth, that when we set out to create the things that we want in life, usually our setbacks and blocks come up with areas where we need to grow or trauma that we need to heal. And so rather than manifestation just being like this thing that I can get what thing I can use to get what I want, right?
Yeah.
It's really this opportunity, this pathway to find the areas that I can grow in. And I'm personally really passionate about manifesting money and
Yes.
teaching and being in the conversation of women being really powerful with money, being powerful money attractors. And so that's a little bit about me.
So, how did you get into the manifestation? Like, how did you get into manifesting money? Like, what did that look like? How did you know? How did you kind of know that like you were good at this? Like, was there like something that happened or like, yeah, just tell me how you got into it.
Yeah, this is interesting. I don't know if I shared this with you before. So I actually got into it when I was like 16 or 17. My childhood years, my teenage years were really tumultuous. And it was through just wise women who happened to cross my path that would send me a book on chakras or recommend, these certain like spiritual books. And one of them was called Creating Money it's like a channeled book. And I think it's Sanaya Roman is the official author. But I was like 17 reading this book to try to figure out like how to move out on my own and pay my own rent and, like make it in the world, right? Because I
Mm.
just didn't really have that type of guidance and structure from my parents. And I just clung to that work. Like I feel like the work of spirituality and the work of manifestation in many ways saved my life because I just dove in. And at first, I was manifesting things like jobs and an apartment and the small stuff and really kind of using it in a way to survive. And I really feel like I did that for like a good decade almost until I got to this moment where I was like, wait a minute, why am I not manifesting like the big numbers or the
Hmm.
big income or why am I like in the same relationship pattern? And I realized that it was because I wasn't actually like, manifesting the big stuff. I wasn't manifesting the large numbers in my bank account. I wasn't manifesting a husband and, like, the real things, like, the big things, right? That tend to sort of go by the wayside unless we're really practiced in that. So that really up-leveled my journey. It's where my tagline came from, "Manifest massively." I started really going bigger in my manifestations. That led me to manifesting my husband. We've been together now for 10 years, married for 5, and also really starting to call in and manifest higher income amounts, more money to come in. And honestly, that was probably about 2013-ish when I look at where I was then and even in the beginning stages of my relationship with my husband to where we are now, it's night and day. So I'm kind of sold on the whole manifestation thing.
I was saying it's so nice to have you on here because a lot of my talks, they're kind of like on the heavier side of money. Like they're talking about the strategy and the finances and looking at numbers and looking at and I feel like manifestation is almost this like lighter fun side of money. Do you feel like your manifestation process does it feel like it's kind of getting to a vibe of feeling like money is coming to you? Like would you consider that as part of a process of manifestation or what does manifestation look like to you or feel like to you? Does it feel like that?
Yeah, I think the vibe is really important. So I like to look at manifestation through a multitude of lenses because we can look at it through a psychological lens and look at the mindset piece and the belief piece.
Right.
And to answer your question is definitely one of the areas like I know for me in the beginning of my journey, one of the beliefs that I really started with was just believing that there was plenty of money available to me. That more than enough is truth, that abundance is the truth of the reality that I exist in, rather than living in this experience of there's not enough, there's not enough, there's not enough. So I really definitely believe in that mindset piece. And when we are disciplined in just working one belief like that and having that belief, like literally today, I really believing that there's plenty and believing that abundance is truth. It's just so easy for me. It's just, even if I get into a moment of scarcity, I can
Yeah.
return to abundance very, very easily. In the beginning, not so much, right? But also that feeling, right? Our thoughts create our feelings. So that mindset and the narrative that's going on, we can talk ourselves into being really stressed out. We can talk ourselves into being really scared. We can think ourselves into feeling really good about stuff, right? So
Mhm.
so that feeling piece, I think like you were talking about with the vibe is also crucial as well. I also really love to tie that into like our nervous systems because literally, right? Like when we think about something that is potentially fearful, we can start to increase our heart rate, right? Like
Right.
we
Yeah.
affect ourselves physiologically. And then if you're open to that energetic lens, of course, our physiology, our emotions are gonna affect our energy. And you know what it's like to walk into a room where like some heavy conversation just happened and like the vibe is different, right? Like
Mhm.
we all
Yeah.
have a sense of energy. So I really feel like manifestation can be customized. If somebody just really is drawn more towards the mindset piece, then they should go with that. And if they don't really resonate with the energy piece, then that's okay, right? It doesn't change the fact that as a human, your ability to create what you desire and to create the experience that you want to have, it's innate within us. I feel like there's many, many paths to that. But I will say
Mm.
that the things that I focus on that I can easily just release, that I can just really feel good and excited about, and then just
Yeah.
let go and not feel like I have to work on or control, those are the manifestations that come very easily, that come, like, out of nowhere. I totally forgot I wanted that. Those quiet moments between me and the universe that I'm like, "Yeah, I want this," but I fully surrender it. Like, those are the things that I feel like are the most magical. Like, for me, when I was manifesting my husband, I had a lot of internal work I needed to do on my relationship with men, on my relationship with dating, on being able to ask for what I want, just all kinds of things. So that wasn't as
Mhm.
easy of one. It's not like, I started thinking differently and then 2 days later he showed up. Didn't quite work like that. But again, I think there is a playful side and those things that we have the least resistance around that we can be the most playful and joyful with, I feel like are the things that come easiest and come quickly.
So this is interesting because I wonder if this ties into I think everybody knows here on this podcast that I had debt for like 17 years. And as I look back through all my old journals, like, all the mindset work, everything I was doing, I can see in every almost every single journal that I've had since I started journaling, probably like maybe 6 years ago. And every single one had pay off debt, pay off debt, pay off debt, right? And I just kept writing it and writing it and writing it. But I mean, at least those 6 years, I can see it never came true until the past like 2 years when I paid off my debt in 16 months. But like if someone was to come to you, right, with this issue of I've been trying to manifest paying off my debt for 6 years, right? And it's not happening. Like, what kind of tips or tricks would you give them if they were like, I really want to pay off my debt. I really want to pay off my debt. And I just kept writing it. And I'm thinking about that because as you were talking, you were saying about things that are heavier, right? Sometimes are harder to manifest. And I think my debt felt so heavy. But what would you say if someone was like, I keep trying to pay off my debt, I keep trying to manifest paying off my debt? It's not happening. Like, what kind of tips or
Mhm.
tricks would you say to them?
Yeah, this is so good. I have been on a debt payoff journey myself and had the experience of paying off a lot of debt as well. So, the first place that I would go is to just uncover the fact, and I know you talk about this in your work because I've done your work, like the shame that is there in like this cultural
Mhm.
narrative around
Mhm.
debt and
Yeah.
how it's bad and you shouldn't have it and you're a bad person because you have it and like unconsciously we can take on this identity that like there's something wrong with this because I have this debt and it becomes this whole world and this whole thing
Yeah.
becomes this thing that we have to fix, right? And then it becomes like this mystery to us. So I feel like locating yourself in all of that and understanding that a lot of the perceptions and beliefs and conversations that you have around debt, you inherited. They're beliefs that were given to you by your upbringing, they're beliefs that were given to you by society. And I believe that when we create our own authentic relationship to money, our own authentic relationship to that debt, just coming from who we really are,
Mm.
distinct from those narratives and those stories and those negative emotions, right? We actually can insert our power into that and start to decide, okay, wait, this doesn't mean something is wrong with me. This doesn't mean something is bad about me.
Mm.
Really is just, you know, how did I hear it say once? It's just past expenses.
Yeah.
Like finding a way to define it that takes that like tension out of your body, right? Because I mean, it can really be one of those things where you can really incite a lot of fear of what's going to happen if I'm still in debt. And this fear builds up. And one of the things I'll say is when we get into that fearful and anxious state,
Yes.
literally lose access to our higher mind. It puts us in the lower part of our brain, in our cerebellum, in our lizard brain, as they call it. And we literally lose access to the prefrontal cortex, which is where higher thinking, critical thinking, and creativity occur.
Mm.
So being able to approach something like debt or a challenge like paying a lot of debt off it's crucial to be able to approach that from a calm state so that we can really incite as much of our higher mind, as much of our creative faculties as possible. And so removing that charge by flipping the script or reframing the perception of it, I think is massive, where all of a sudden it's not this mountain you have to climb. And then there's 2 more things I'll say about that. One, there's probably some process, some pathway that if you just get on the process and the pathway, the debt will be paid off in some finite amount of time. Like, I
Yes.
don't know what amount of time that would be for any individual, right? But, like,
Right.
there's probably just some plan or some process of just some track to get on, to just get on and not get off until it's paid off, right? There is a simplicity to that. And so I would say find that and find support around that. And I really love it's so funny because her name's been coming up a lot in different conversations lately, but I love how Amanda Francis talks about focusing on overflow and
Yeah.
focusing on
'Cause I was
income.
gonna ask about that. I was gonna say, sometimes when I've like looked at manifestation people, they're like, never focus on the debt, like focus on creating overflow. So go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Is that what you're
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I feel like if you have a lot of shame or negative stories or even trauma around debt, we can
Yeah.
definitely have money trauma around debt. That
Yes.
if all of that's there and it's not acknowledged and you're just focusing on overflow, I feel like sometimes that can hold you up because it's kind of like something still sitting in your space about it. So
Mhm.
if there is some healing that needs to occur, so reframing that needs to occur, I say start there. And then yeah, what is actually going to solve paying off the debt is money. And putting more money in. And, like, it seems so simple, but at the same time, that's what happens when we are focused on the debt payoff, then we're not focused on the allowing, the receiving, the generating, the creating, and
Yeah.
actually being in the state of having more money than you know what to do with so that debt's just not an issue.
Yeah.
And even in a lot of what you teach that helped me so much is the actual nitty-gritty of the management of it, like becoming the person who can channel and allocate and flow funds in such a way so that that debt's not being created. When you are somebody who has had debt for a really long time,
Yeah.
you literally have to become a new person and
Yes.
have a new relationship with
A new
money
real Yes.
to
Mhm.
be able to receive, generate, channel, and allocate. It really that's sort of like how I see it, right? Because that's
Yes.
a lot of what you taught me, right? In allocating funds in the appropriate way that's in alignment with your goals. So that's what I would say to the debt payoff journey.
Oh, that's so nice. What a nice way to put it. That's such a wonderful way to put it. I wonder like how so like here I was trying to manifest paying off my debt, right? Like what would it look like for you if, if so like maybe I wasn't doing something right in the manifestation. Maybe there was something else on my journey I need to figure out. But like if someone else is listening now and they're like, I've been writing pay off my debt for a while. What could I do, Nicole, to like actually get in the manifestation part of paying off my debt? So what would that look like? What would that look like if you coach someone how to manifest paying off their debt to you?
Yeah. I think the first thing I would do is I would ask them if they feel like there's any self-forgiveness that needs to happen, right?
Yes.
Really
100%. Yeah.
create this cleared
Yeah.
slate, right? Because if we're self-punishing and if we're feeling like we're being punished by society because we have debt, uh,
Yes.
getting high vibe is not gonna be like the thing to do, right? So
It's so weird in our society that there's like this shame around debt, but also get into debt. Like there's this like go to college, obviously, get into debt, obviously. And then it's like, why are you in debt? Like there's kids in their 20s that are like, oh my God, I have student loans. I'm like 26. I'm like, you just like came out of college and and then they're like all worried about having debt and it's okay. And then we're like, buy a car, just take out a loan, buy a house, take out a mortgage. Like it's okay. And then it's like, "Oh, you have debt? How dare you?"
so true.
Contradicting views
I
in
mean,
society.
this is exactly why, like, really getting clear on where external narratives, societal narratives, cultural narratives are influencing what you believe about yourself or what you
Yes.
believe about you is so key. Yeah, because when you break free from that, and maybe, I know for me, like I definitely had a lot of moments where I would beat myself up over having that debt. And it
Yeah.
wasn't I had like the draw a line in the sand moment, look at myself in the eye in the mirror of like, oh, I'm letting this go. You know what?
Yeah.
This is what this really is. I'm not using this as a tool to beat myself up anymore.
Yeah.
It's who I'm choosing to be in the future. Like almost giving myself this opportunity to wipe the slate clean in my relationship with money and not use it as a tool to beat myself up anymore.
So if
Just
someone wanted to manifest paying off their debt, the first thing they would have to do is actually let go of any of those really strong charged emotions, whether it's shame, fear, regret, sad, like any of that stuff around.
forgive.
Yeah. Okay.
Forgive. Yeah, I feel like forgiveness and debt are just so tied together. I think there's a book, oh my gosh, what is her name? It's like The Four Spiritual Laws of Prosperity, Edwene Gaines. And she
Mm-hmm.
talks about spiritually, like debt and forgiveness. So I would start with
Oh,
forgiveness. I would start with what's there that you need to forgive yourself for? Let's face it, especially in today's society, it's so easy to throw your credit card on Amazon. It's so easy to throw your credit card in these automated places where it gets charged. So
yeah.
maybe there is, an honest inventory of our behaviors, just an honest look of like, okay, where's this actually going? This is where a lot of your work with YNAB is really helpful.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, what is actually
Really
happening
going. Yeah.
in reality? And now
Yeah.
that I gift myself, I can actually look and I can look with an open heart and I can look with a peaceful mind and just really just be honest about it, right?
Yeah.
And I'll add to that, like having faith and truly believing that you can,
Mm.
truly believing in abundance, starting to really work the muscle of believing that it is actually possible, believing that it is possible for you. You're not destined being this broke person. You're not destined to be that person in debt. Like,
Yeah.
yes, is available. I think sometimes we can get so discouraged that we just don't even really feel into that possibility and see that possibility of that reality of like, oh no, this actually can be. So working like all those positivity things that we know, the gratitude practice, some type of spiritual practice, whether that just be, returning our mindset to faith or if there's, I don't know, all kinds of ways we can
Do you
pull.
have a spiritual practice that you do?
I definitely meditate. Sometimes I'll work with
Meditate?
oracle cards. Yeah. Sometimes it's just really simple. I'll just write a letter to God.
Yeah.
Just in my journal, just like I really do believe that connecting with a higher power is really powerful
Mm.
and having that, and really like, infinite intelligence, right? Being able to surrender to the all that is, so that we don't feel like we're having to do it all ourselves,
Mhm.
knowing that there is this force that is supporting us in this process and that actually does want what we want, that wants us to have the experience of that debt payoff, that wants us to have, and actually for those of you that are interested in this, the book, The Science of Getting Rich, he talks about the spirituality and money
Mm.
like so beautifully and intricately of like, I mean, I never even thought to relate to my higher power the way that he describes. I mean, he literally, and Wallace Waddles is, and it's like an old book, but it's a
Yeah.
really short read.
Yeah.
Revisit it often just because the way that, just talking about faith and talking about being in the certainty of
Yes.
this future that you want.
Yes.
To me, like, as I think about that, right, just like, and I'm like, an avid reader, I'm always reading money books because I just love, that's what I like to fill my mind with,
Yeah.
connects me to that, like, that spot, right, that space of feeling supported, of, yeah, just being held on this journey.
So you've been able to do a really cool thing. Like when you first came to me, I was like, I usually don't get manifestation coaches. Like I usually do not get them. And I think at least this is when I like couple things I've heard is that a lot of manifestation coaches find my work like a little bit, I don't know, not interesting because they find that it would be hard to hold the idea that there's always more, we can create more, there's an abundance, right? And also looking at our money daily. And I found like I find this with this pops up a lot. So this is like a really great thing for you to talk about because what I find happens a lot is people will have to look at their money daily, which is what I have a lot of my clients do in YNAB or weekly. And they'll be faced with the realization of money's going out, money's going out, money's going out, right? And then they'll be trying at the same time to hold this belief that money is always available, money is abundant, there's always more. Like, so Nicole has been like this perfect like client of mine who has both, who can hold both, who can hold this. I look at my money, I manage my money, but I always know that there is more and that, you have your spiritual practice of money. How do you feel like it's been possible to hold both? Or like, what has that looked like for you being able to hold both? Has it been hard to hold both of them too?
I love this question. So, okay, number one, like, as much as I am like as spiritual and woo woo as they come, like, I'm also very grounded in the fact that we're all human and we live on planet Earth and money is a thing here. Like, having a bank account is a thing and managing credit cards, like, this is the reality of human life. Right? To
Yeah.
deny that, I think, is a real disservice, right? There's a reason we are here in this way. And even if I don't have all the answers to that, I do know that the truth is I am here in this physical plane and there are things called dollars that I interact with,
Mm.
right?
Hmm.
And so it's really important to me to not be in denial about that, right? And to find the balance between just being in the reality of that and then also honoring that spiritual side of who I am, honoring my higher power, how that fits for me, and certainly spreading the word for, those that are interested to create that for themselves, right? Um, hold both. So that
Yeah.
first piece is just really honoring the human that I am. And I really honestly, it's gonna sound like so simple that it's gonna sound like complex. But I just really instilled a couple of just really, really powerful beliefs that I worked consistently from 2013-ish to now.
Yeah.
And I don't even know how to say the words. It was just like believing that I was worthy of wealth,
Mhm.
believing that it was possible for me. I'll actually share this story because when I was really starting to play with this whole, like, let me manifest massive amounts of money,
Yeah.
I decided that I was gonna manifest $100,000, that I was
Yeah.
gonna manifest $100,000, and what I was gonna do was I was gonna do what all of the, you know, long time manifest, Wallace Waddle and all the people, right? What they say is, like, to believe in the certainty of it, right? Like,
Okay.
fully believe and, like, not give up on that belief, and that was
Yes.
what I was gonna do for 6 months is just hold that belief. Now, I thought that money was gonna come through my business because I had started my coaching business, and, like, I was working a part-time job at the time, and literally as I would drive to work every day, I would, like, consciously be like, that money's coming." I actually had it in my phone. It came up in my calendar every single day. "You are about to receive more money than you've ever received before." And I just
Mm.
on that. I just
Oh,
focused on that.
let's all do
Focused
that.
on it.
So I'll put
Yeah.
that one in there.
You are
Mhm.
about to receive more, right? And so then it had to play in the availability, like being available for that money, trusting myself that I could receive and manage that money. And on and on and on it went, right? Like I literally, and then I would have days where I would feel doubtful and I would be like, and then I would just, that was my one promise to myself is that I would just stay true to that belief. And
Oh, I
that
love
was it.
that.
That was the simplicity of it, right?
Yeah.
And it was like, I swear, almost 6 months to the day that it just so happened that my husband and I decided it was time to buy our first home. And it was in the middle of COVID. And it was a very sort of divine, like, we'd gone to this park and I saw this housing complex. And there was just, it was like, we need to start looking at houses. Like, it was like that. And I wasn't connecting my money manifestation journey with this. It was like they were totally disconnected. We had
Yeah.
been on a debt payoff journey, on a money management journey. I had moved from California to Louisville. So we're on this, okay, we're going to start looking and we've done the things, the credit was in place and the 2-year job, all the things that you need for a mortgage. And we start down that path and that kind of has its own story. But then we were sharing with his family that we're doing this, by no means were we weren't expecting any kind of help, but they were obviously expressing that there was some intention to like help us with the down payment. We're like, great, we're thinking it's going to be this 5-figure amount. And it was exactly the $100,000. And I think it ended up being a little bit more than that.
Oh my god. First of all, what a family. Like, oh my god. I can imagine.
Yeah, and I mean, truthfully, like, I didn't know that that was even, I mean, it like, you gotta like, it's not like we were pining on this. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, it really it's kind of a whole long story there of even how that came to be, but it was just such a profound moment of how this money came in. I thought it was gonna come in a certain way, and what it taught me was how important it was to be available to receive that. And then since then, as I've moved on in my journey, which I eventually hired you for, because
Yes.
after that happened, more money started to come in. My husband started his business started taking off. There were other ways that our income was increasing, our assets were increasing. And I started to get to this like ceiling where managing it, like it wasn't, I had a management system in place that was for, 2 incomes in our apartment dwelling. And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden it was like, we're talking about retirement and managing a household and all of these other things. And I was like at my limit with how to do it. And my paper system that I created for myself was certainly, um,
Binder. I remember the binder, right? The
yes,
binders.
yes, I still have to
Oh
represent
my
her
god.
line to
I
5, it's
still
my
love
little,
your
like,
binder.
rounding point, but I know it creates extra work for me, but
Yeah.
it gets me into YNAB too, so, yeah, but, yeah, so, I mean, I really and I feel like this segues really well into your work because what I've learned as I have had more money in my experience is kind of a little bit of a stark truth because we think for so long that money's gonna solve our problems.
Yes.
And I just thought
100%.
for so long, "Well, once I have money, I'll just
Well, once I have money, just make more money.
be okay." But
Yeah.
actually, with money, it's like you hear it said, "Oh, comes great with responsibility." There's a lot of truth to that. When you own a
Yes.
home, there's an asset to manage. When you have an excess amount of money, there's taxes, there's ways to manage it.
Yeah.
Is a whole entire skill set that I mean, honestly, I'm so grateful that I hired you to help me with because you gave me this like you had my back as I journeyed through this new, even accelerated relationship with money. And
Yeah.
that's the other thing. And I'm gonna let you talk here in a second because I want you to share like your take on all of this too. But like, I also think the other misnomer is that once we get to that point where money's coming in, like we'll be done. Like we'll
Yes.
just,
That's
oh,
it.
it'll be just enough. And it is so not that you are always, it does not end. Growth, the mindset, the discomfort, the learning new things, like the growth is constant and it's exponential and that piece doesn't end. And honestly, I want to turn it over to you because that is what I hired you for. That is what
Right.
you have helped me with and actually helped me have some grace in the process of expanding, really
Yes.
continuing to.
Yes. Yes, I think it's like once we get because we keep thinking, right? I'll make more money, I'll make more money. I mean, for like a lot of my clients, it's like I'll get to six figures, right? And I think that's what happened with, I mean, you guys have really grown massively. You and your husband and your life and your wealth has grown so massively. And it was just like, oh, I'll just get to that spot. And we never think beyond that number. Like we think hit that number, money will be taken care of. But what happens is like you get to that number and things kind of do. I don't want to scare anybody off from like hitting six figures or having a lot of money or building their assets and building their wealth. But once you do start to build your wealth, financial things start to become a little bit more complicated. There's like different tax brackets, there's different things. There's like now all of a sudden money is coming in and going out, and lots is coming in and lots is going out. And it starts to just bring up all this stuff of like, the way I used to manage money, if you used to have a way to manage money, which is like a lot of my people will come to me and they'll be using something, they're more along the lines of expense tracking, which is like what you were doing a little bit, right? When you
Yes,
came to me
for
with your
sure.
binder. It was like,
100%.
yeah, I know my expenses. I know what we need to pay. And that's what a lot of people are doing when they're making just enough. It's like, I know how to hit my expenses and that's it. But when you enter and manifest massively and you enter into overflow state, then all of a sudden it's like things can then all of a sudden start to expenses can start to creep up everything. And it's like, wait, whoa, 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 whoa. Now everything's happening rapidly. And it's like, but this old way of doing money, which is expense tracking, doesn't work anymore. And all of a sudden, it's like, I need to get on top of my money. And a lot of what I teach and what YNAB teaches you is zero sum budgeting, which is where now you're start to give every dollar a job. Like every dollar has to have a job because there's so much coming in, there's so much going out, there's so many new things to then save for, pay for, right? When our wealth grows, what that usually means is like our expenses are growing. There's houses to manage, there's properties to manage, there is it could be a new business, there's new expenses in the business, everything is starting to like massively grow. And you no longer can just use expense tracking. It's like now I really need to make sure every dollar is going to where I want it to go. And that's what like zero sum budgeting is. It's a completely different philosophy. It's a completely different way to look at money. And it's so funny that we all just think like, let me just get to making a lot of money and then I'll figure it all out. And it's like, no, there's this new layer and like it's all a part of just being on the journey of now someone who is a six-figure earner, a seven-figure earner. It's like, all right, well, now that you've made it here, guess what your next thing is? It's to learn how to manage the money. Like that's what you got to do. You work so hard to get there. Now let's like actually figure out how to manage your money so you get to keep it. Or you get to pay off debt, or you get to retire early, or you get to buy another property, right? Things like that. And it's funny that like we all just think, just get there and I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. But yeah.
So, really quick, can you give like the, 3-minute version of your story? Because I love
Oh,
your story so
oh, my
much.
story?
This
Well,
that's a
which
gener
which one is it? Is it the
Well,
one?
I mean, what really brought you to like, "Oh, shit, like, I need to learn how to manage my money."
Yeah, yeah.
And
Well,
like,
okay.
and
My ocean story was that I had a six-figure year, my first six-figure year in my business, and then I ended it with $25,000 in debt, no savings, nothing to show for it, no assets.
just
And
got chilled.
then yeah, and then I started the next year pregnant with my head in a toilet, and my solution to all my money problems, just make more money, was like not a solution, not possible anymore. And that was like my oh shit story. And then by the time my daughter was 16 months old, I ended up paying off $25,000, all that credit card debt. I am now
Wow. Oh
officially
gosh.
2 years credit card debt free, which is hard for a lot of people. Like, because a lot of people will get out of debt and then get back into it.
Yes.
So I've been 2 years debt free. So I paid off all of my credit card debt. I saved 6 months of personal expenses, 6 months of business expenses, all
Oh
within
my
that 16
gosh.
months. And that, like I said at the beginning of the podcast, I carried credit card debt for like 17 years. And all
Yeah.
I needed was 16 months just 16 months of my life to be but it was because I didn't know how to manage my money. I was expense tracking for the longest time, and then once I came into a good amount of money, I was just using expense tracking. I had, like I still had a lot of wealth mindset issues going on. I kept thinking I needed to, instead of like get myself to a financially stable place. I know in that six-figure year, I put a lot of money out because I was so worried that it wouldn't continue happening. So, like, I can look back at that year and be like, I put all this money out because I was so worried about me not being able to keep it and maintain it instead of just being like, all right, cool. I figured out a way to get my business to six figures. Let me like stabilize my finances. Let me pay off a little bit more debt. Let me like get to like a good place. Let me build up some savings, right? I was just like, oh, no, no, I just need to keep the money, just keep the money coming in.
Yeah.
That's
Which is
my
like a
that's my
fast
story
track
in a
to
nutshell
burnout,
for
right?
Nicole's listeners.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm. And now I'm at this
So
place
it's
now where I get to teach other people about you need a budget. Well, that's what I teach a lot of my clients about is you need a budget, which is what I call zero sum budgeting, which is life changing.
yes.
Yeah.
Which yes, and I actually will put in my intro, but is a book and a piece of software and so, so helpful to have you, elbow to elbow getting all of that set up. So, so, so
Yes. Yeah,
helpful.
because it's a lot of people use, like, even on my journey, even when I was at six figures, I was using You Need a Budget. I was just using it as an expense tracker. I wasn't actually using it to do what it's meant to do, which is what we worked together and did. So a
Yeah.
lot of people will sign up for You Need a Budget and then be like, "I don't understand, like, Shannon said the software is supposed to be so great, but, like, I'm not paying off debt. I'm not saving money. I'm not doing all these like fancy things with my money that I want to do." And it's like, oh, because you're just using it like Nicole's paper binder of expenses. You're gonna use it in the way it's meant to be used. And that's why I became a YNAB coach because it's an entirely different philosophy. It's an entirely different way to manage your money. Yeah. It's what I call it's a part of my lazy girl money method, which is my new method for teaching people how to use YNAB. So
I love that. The lazy girl
lazy girl
method.
money method. Yeah.
I will add that there's something to be said for when we become good stewards of money, that we are demonstrating something to ourselves subconsciously. We're also demonstrating something to the universe, right? I feel like just the act of buckling down, deciding to learn what you needed to learn, build the skills you needed to build, right? Like opens you up to new channels of abundance, new channels of money that wouldn't be there because that trust is now instilled in a new way.
Yes.
So I feel like the
Mhm.
management of it is as important as the manifestation. It's like they really do go
Like,
like go
together.
hand in hand.
S
Yeah, it's really
Beautiful, aren't they? Yes. It's like, oh, like and that's what I thought was so cool about you is I was like, Nicole can hold both, which a lot of people like, I know a lot of people that are just like, no, like, I even know some manifestation coach one time that said something like, "I'm not going to create a savings account because I don't want to attract, in a like, like an emergency or something that I need to." And I was like, "Wait, what?" You can use them both, like, beautifully together to, like
something else. Just don't call it an emergency fund. Call it something else. It's okay to have money. It's
yeah,
not
like,
waiting there for you.
call it my overflow money, call it, like,
Yes,
my Italy vacation money, like, call
for
it some
sure. Yeah. Yeah. Good old fashioned rainy day fun. It's just a rainy day. That's all.
So you've done such a beautiful job at, like, being able to show people what it's like to be someone who believes in manifestation, works manifestation, uses manifestation, and then to also be someone who manages money at the same time too. Like,
Thank you
so
so much.
beautifully.
I so appreciate that acknowledgement. It's like
Yeah.
a rare acknowledgement to be seen in that way.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I'm really just grateful to highlight that because I really just feel like, we I don't want to say we should, I don't like that word, but like being both, right? Like being powerful in both
Both.
areas is possible. It's not rocket science. It is available, it is attainable, and it feels really good, right? To just
Yes.
have power in those areas. Not perfection by any means.
No.
I'm not perfect, but I do yeah, honor both pieces of it.
Yay. All right. Well, thank you so much, Nicole, for coming on mine and I'm on yours. And
Yes,
we're swapping both.
I love it. Always fabulous
We did it.
conversation.
We did
Yeah,
it. We did it. We did 2 podcast episodes in one, everybody.
I
So
love
I'm
it.
pretty
I
proud
love
of
it.
myself.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for coming on, Nicole. Where can people find you online? Where can my people find you?
Yeah. NicoleReneeRay.com, at Nicole Renee Ray on Instagram, and Renee's with 2 E's. So Nicole is, well, yeah, Nicole Renee Ray with 2 E's, but I'll
All
give you the
right.
link. Yeah. Easy enough. Easy enough.
Thank you so much, Nicole, for coming on.
Thank you.